Today. My name's Clare. I live on the central coast of New South Wales. I have a glass studio there. Just to give you a little bit of my background, I recently completed a Bachelor of Visual Arts with honours at the Australian National University in Canberra. And I finished that. We moved to Canberra for me to do the degree, my husband and myself. And then we moved home at the end of last year, and I'm back into work in my studio where I teach as well, but that probably won't start for a while after I've had a bit of a rest after 4 years of uni. So I have a background in nursing. I was a clinical nurse specialist in coronary care for 20 years, and through my nursing career I just really realised how much hope plays a part in people's lives and how important it is in people's health and recovery. And so when I started doing my artwork in a professional way through uni, I really just wanted to create works of art that would still give people that hope. Like often during nursing it was through just speaking to them or being there or just showing them, positive things, and that made a difference. So with my artwork I just wanted to create a place of hope and refuge and revelation, and so that's where these works have developed from. I also have a background in stained glass, which I've been doing since early 20s, and even can remember in kindergarten I made one of those cellophane bees with the coloured paper and just being I can still remember the moment seeing it and being enraptured and just loving light and glass. And so at the beginning of my honours year, which is where these works were made, I thought that I was going to do stained glass as a methodology because I love it so much. I love the technique and everything about it. And yet this is what resulted. And so in a way they're very connected because the stained glass of the old Gothic cathedrals was very much about showing a message, giving a message. The scriptures were, with symbols and signs, were relayed through the priests to the masses to give them hope and tell them a story. And so that, as I said, is what I want these works to do, but I've used the same scriptures are within them, but I've used my own visual language of the text, which is within the works, to create that same space for people, but just, and again, using light, but using a different method and my own technique of visual language to relay the message. So the mediums that I've used is glass and light. Light is very important, both as medium and metaphor. Light as a medium itself to illuminate the works, but also as a metaphor for God as light and God's word as light. So they actually contain light both physically and spiritually within the pieces. And then the glass itself as a conduit is very important. The translucency is important because it captures the light, because light you can't actually see it apart from its source and what it hits, and so the glass actually acts as a conduit for the light to pass through. The glass also reveals what's within, reveals the text within, and I wanted people to be able to draw close and sort of see what is within by the glass being translucent rather than coloured. And so you can stop and pause and have another world in there created, which you can just pause and interact with and dwell upon. So I really wanted to encourage that pause and that exchange within the work. The glass is also reflective, and that just sort of relates also to the work reflecting back on ourselves, which is often what the scriptures do for me. It makes me reflect back onto myself and question things with myself and with life. The text within the works, in case people didn't realise, it's all text, it's all words, and this particular work is taken from Proverbs chapter 4 on wisdom, and so the words are suspended in the work, and they're also seen and unseen. If you these works with the matte sides, it isn't so easy to see, but if you do get down low, it actually disappears altogether. And that's again a parallel for faith, that sometimes you can't even see it, but it can be there in people's lives, yet you don't always see it. So the form of the cubes is an expanding form, just creating more space around each work. Just as wisdom can, needs space to be applied. The void in the centre, there is actually words there, but they've been covered over, so it comes out as a central void. all these little things, the matte surface as well, where you've got to look in a bit harder, is also like a metaphor for wisdom. You really need to search for it and look for it. And in this particular verse it says you should search for it like silver and like hidden treasure, because it's such a valuable thing to have, wisdom. The process is very similar to stained glass, and I realise how much I love process, just that repetitive, contemplative, meditative stage. So actually making the works is very much a form of devotion, and part of the process is the actual work itself, where the materials and the idea and the process all come together. And so the outcome is actually a reflection of my intention and becomes embodied in the work itself. So I'll just quickly go through how I made them, and then I can open it up to questions. So each work is made of 3mm high layers, which have been cut and stacked upon itself. And then I just calculate what I need to actually put onto each layer as far as text goes to create the final shape once it's all fused together. And so it's a very slow, laborious process, but I love that. So each layer has a certain part of the verse on it, and I build up and then come back in, and I have to calculate, not being of the computer era, I do it all manually. I'm drawing a circle and measuring, and I do need to learn Illustrator, and so I can cut my time in probably a tenth from what I do. But I also love that the hand is in it so much, and it's not just all computer generated, it's very much done physically by me measuring every line. And so once I calculate all that and apply the text to each layer, I make a fibreboard mould for each piece. It's fused all in one process. The text has got lead in the toner, and so then the lead changes from black before the firing to the copper colour as the lead is adhered to the glass. And then it's fired in the kiln to about 800 degrees, and then annealed depending on the size of the piece. This piece may take a week and a half. This piece takes nearly a month to anneal. So each work is very slow in the annealing process, which just means that you need to do it very slowly so there's no stress contained within the glass as it cools, or it can crack if you do it too fast and have too much stress. So that once it's annealed and comes out, that's the beginning of another long process of cold working the piece to get the desired finish of a matte surface or a gloss surface. And that's about it, how they're made, very quickly. And I'll just open it up to questions now if anyone has anything else they'd like to ask, or that I've missed that you'd like to know about.
You just glossed over the gloss and the matte. What are the different techniques to achieve that?
It's a matter of the different, it's a matter of, there's all different grit sizes you need to go through, from a very coarse grit to get rid of all the rough dags and bits on it, and then you cold work it, as in you can do it on a machine or on a bit of glass with some grit and polishing it. And so you go from a very coarse silicon carborundum grit up to a very fine one, and each time you go up you get shinier and shinier. But to get a final gloss finish you need to go to another substance called cerium, which takes off any matte surface and lets the glass become translucent again. So it's just a matter of where you stop in that progression as to what sort of finish you'll get at the end. Yeah.
When you said you're building up layer by layer, so you're going to have to keep the temperature constant to be able to do that. It must be really difficult.
Yes, so it all goes in at the one time. So I build up the layers while it's all cold, like initially, and then I put the whole thing in the kiln. So I'll have, for example, this piece, which is 150, so it's got about 50 layers in it. So I have them all laid out on the table and apply the text individually all the way through, and calculating what shape I need to create. And then they're all stacked in a big mould and put into the kiln in one go. Yeah. So I don't add them as it, toss them in halfway through.
So
yeah.
The text is actually what?
It's the actual verse from Proverbs.
No, the substance.
It's done on a decal paper, and then that is printed. I print it on a particular sort of printer that's got lead toner in it, and then they adhere that to the glass, and then it'll fire onto the glass in the firing process. So it's actual words, and there's so much I want to experiment with these, with different size of fonts and texts, and I also position them differently so it's not all in lines. I sort of do that, rearrange the text to get a more homogeneous sort of look to the work. Yeah.
Well, no, slide through. I think that's beautiful. Unless anybody's got one more question?
I was going to ask.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
As a listener here this morning, it appears to me that you have achieved your concept in reality. Are you happy with that? I feel as though you've achieved what you set out to do. You had your idea in your head, and now it's a reality.
Thank you.
Are you happy with that too? That you
Yes.
achieved your concept you started out with?
Yes, I do find myself they're very contemplative, and like there's like a place of refuge in there, and yes, I do. There's more I want to explore with them. I'm exploring other goal texts and different things I've done some work in as well, which I love as well. So there's I love the little worlds that they create. Yeah. Yes, yeah. Thank
Apart from
you.
anything, I think it really encourages everybody to do it, stand where you are and actually do that contemplation, to actually stand and look and take that moment rather than the glance, to take the time to actually look. Yeah. I like the concept of light being back in there as well. We forget that with glass, it is all
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Active light.
That's right. Yeah.
I was going to say there's sort of magical the way the spear holders in the circle holders in the square.
Yeah, suspends. Thank you.